Another adventure of Laporta. Barcelona is buying Amarodian. Vlahovic becomes a pawn in the player exchange between Juventus and Manchester United. Ronaldo has challenged MrBeast. Another disgrace for the Kazakhstan national team. Cherchesov continues to dig the team into a hole. Mbappe hung out at the club instead of watching the France national team's match against Italy. And Israel sensationally beat Belgium. We're talking about this and much more today. Friends, this is a dose of football and the top 10 hottest news. To this hour on our second channel a few hours ago, as a new video came out. Be sure to watch it by the link in the pinned comment. Well, I wish you a pleasant appetite and a pleasant viewing. In Barcelona, they are quite satisfied with Robert Lewandowski's performances. And how can you be unhappy when the Pole has already scored 14 goals just in La Liga? They are planning to extend his contract. But Jean Laporta is an unstable person when it comes to building a transfer strategy. He might get a whim in half a year, especially since he dreams of transferring Erling Haaland to score political points before the elections. But as previously mentioned, even Laporta knows that signing the Norwegian is a monumental challenge. Nevertheless, his plans include buying a central forward. As we discussed in one of the recent episodes, the president is considering Amara Marmoush from Eintracht and Victor Dekeresh from Sporting as backup options. Both players will cost approximately just over 60 million euros. This is much cheaper than Haaland's transfer, but still a high price for Barcelona with its current financial situation. I don't know what the club president is counting on, but he has added another expensive player to the list of contenders, who just a couple of months ago could have been bought for 5 times cheaper. According to Spanish sources, Barcelona is looking at the upcoming forward, Amarodiona. Last summer, there were talks about a possible sale of the Nigerian Spaniard from Atletico to London's Chelsea. The sides discussed a possible exchange of Amarodiona for Joao Felix, but the deal fell through. The footballer didn't want to become another forward who makes Chelsea's bench a little longer. In the end, he moved to Porto for just 15 million euros. Now Barcelona is interested in him. But the Portuguese won't let their main forward go so cheaply, who has scored 7 goals in 8 matches. Porto will ask for 100 million euros for him. That's not the kind of money Barcelona is willing to spend on Amarodian's transfer. Although I can understand Porto's desire to sell their asset as expensively as possible. Who in their right mind would shell out 100 million for Amarodian when you can buy someone like Marmoush Dekeresh for 60? Compared to them, Amarodian is a newnie. He hasn't debuted for the national team yet. What's the point for Laporte to buy an unhyped player for such money? Therefore, Amarodian's transfer, to put it mildly, is unlikely. Atletico Madrid wants to bring in one of the most promising players from Manchester United. Right now, it's not very clear what will happen to the team under the leadership of Ruben Morima. Changes are definitely expected, but in which direction and to what extent this will happen is still unknown. When the Portuguese wakes up in the coach's chair for at least a month or two, then we will start to understand. Wingers are crucial to his game philosophy. This is a well-known fact. They should be everywhere, cover and defense, and then aggressively fly into the attack. They should be diligent and ambitious. There's a particular problem in Manchester. Somehow, during Ten Hag's cadence, players would occasionally fall on the field. Some cadre purges are bound to happen, but it's hard to even guess who will fall out of favor and who will unexpectedly thrive. There are doubts even in the very best. For example, in Bruno Fernandes and Alejandro Garnacho. Firstly, there are no updates. Secondly, they are gradually infiltrating the Spanish championship. Just recently, former Manchester United player Nicky Butt stated that in the future, Garnacho should move to Real Madrid or Barcelona. The Premier League is often called the best league in the world. But there is one noticeable trend. Leading talents inevitably strive for the Spanish giants Real Madrid and Barcelona. Garnacho is now attracting attention. If he keeps performing this way, it's not hard to picture him eventually wanting to transfer to La Liga. In Spain, players become superstars, both on the field and beyond it, said Bat. But so far, there has been no information about interest from Real and Barça. And there's no need for these teams to buy another winger right now. But unexpectedly, there were reports about Atletico Madrid's interest. Rojiblancos want to bring back their protege, who moved to Old Trafford at the age of 16. Seaman asks the management to go all out to buy Garnacho. He simply ran out of young forwards whom he could ruin the career of. Antoine Griezmann will soon join Major League Soccer. Then who will he keep his zeros on the scoreboard with? Okay, I'm 5 years late with this joke. Now Simon is trying to play differently. More attack, less viscosity, so the game develops dynamically. The management listens to its coach and is preparing to offer MU $40 million at the first stages. But we can move on to the next offer. After all, according to the source, the Red Devils will not listen to any offers below $60 million. I have a hard time imagining Garnacho in Siemens' team, and I don't believe that United is ready to part with him. But who knows? There have been many wild transfers in football, next to which Garnacho's move to Atletico doesn't even come close. Juventus remains uncertain about extending Dusan Vlahovic's contract. The Turin team is facing financial problems, which might make it disadvantageous for them to keep the Serbian forward in the squad. If the parties do not agree on terms loyal to Juventus's budget for the extension, Vlahovic might leave the team in the summer window. Nevertheless, playing without the main forward is quite a perspective. Despite the fact that there are those who can score in Juventus, Turin's leadership will be seeking a replacement for Vlahovic if the player is sold. Toto Sport writes that Juventus's main transfer target will be Joshua Zirkzee. Despite a promising transfer, he has yet to make a breakthrough at Manchester United. Still, Zirkzee had a stunning last season at Bologna, but it didn't work out at Old Trafford. If the trend doesn't change in the near future, the management will consider selling him. They spent about $50 million on him, and they don't really want to lose such an investment. As long as the transfer price remains at the current level, it would be good to sell him. If a miracle doesn't happen and Zirkzee doesn't shine under Amarima's leadership. But the option of him moving to Juventus seems like an interesting idea. At the very least, the Turin team is now led by the man under whose leadership Zirkzee showed great football in Bologna. They might even be able to trade Vlahovic for the Dutchman. Manchester still needs a striker regardless. There's no hope for Haaland yet. Vlahovic has still made a name for himself as a top forward. This Red Devil can help both himself and Juventus. If something suddenly goes wrong, the Turin team is considering several other players for the center-forward position. As an alternative to Vlahovic, they could rent Colombian, who can't find himself in Luis Enrique's system. During his time at Eintracht, the Frenchman was a fierce striker, but his unapproved transfer to the Passage ruined everything for him. Consequently, the club is now suffering, having squandered nearly 100 million euros. And the footballer himself, whose prospects remain in question. The candidates include Arno Calamundo from Rennes and Lorenzo Luca from Udinese. However, these players will have to be bought out, and such conditions are not very suitable for Juventus right now. Not to mention that these players are worth the money being asked for them. Bavaria is threatened by the setup of its former coach. It may lose two main players due to Hanta Flika's good relations with his ex-subordinates. We've already talked about possible transfers from the Munich Grand. At this rate, nothing will be left of Bavaria by the start of the next season. The departures of such leaders as Manuel Neuer, Leon Goretzka, and Joshua Kimmich are already being predicted. In addition, the attacking line may also lose a couple of key players. Bayern fears that its players will become direct competitors in the European arena. In particular, joining Barcelona, which has already inflicted a painful defeat on the Munich team this season. Fears are also intensified by the fact that Hansi Flick is leading the Catalans. The German still has connections with his former subordinates, and he can use them to somehow force the transition under his wing. Bayern Munich faces uncertainty as Joshua Kimmich may refuse to extend his contract due to the prospect of joining Barcelona under Flick. Alphonso Davies' future with the club is also in doubt. There are no agreements with Conte yet, and he is more likely to join Real Madrid. But who knows when Flick will make the call that changes everything. If Barcelona finishes the season well, many doubting players from Bavaria may start offering their services to it. For example, Serge Gnabry and Kingsley Coman have long been on the radar of the Catalan team, and in case of anything, the management can take advantage of the opportune moment and sign them. Leroy Sané's position is also in question. Barcelona's unstable squad requires reinforcements. It's clear that none of the aforementioned players will be able to displace Rafinha and Jamal from the starting lineup. But these players could be available to Barca for a song if they decide to put pressure on Bayern's management. And some are even free of charge. To be fair, the Munich team isn't too keen on holding on to the listed forwards. In Bayern's transfer news, Leon Goretzka's future is also noteworthy. Barcelona might also sign him. No confirmation has been received yet, but Manchester United and Union Berlin have shown interest in the player, according to available data. Let's be honest, there's nothing for Goretzka to hunt in Bavaria. Not under the leadership of Vincent Kompany, but he fits into Robin Morim's football. Indeed, winning the competition for a place in the starting lineup will not be easy, and Union is ready to guarantee his place in the starting lineup. Goretzka needs to decide what he wants. To play in a club with a big name? Possibly watching matches from the bench. Or be the leader of a mid-tier team that consistently performs in the Eurocups. Legendary Ronaldo did not become a coach after ending his career. The Brazilian preferred to try himself in the role of a club owner, and he started very cool at Real Valladolid, pulling the club out of the crisis, including with the money from his own pocket. First and foremost, thanks to competent management. The Brazilian outlined his main principles in working with Valladolid: competence, clarity, revolution, and community. And in the year 2020, Ronaldo began to conduct business in his homeland. He bought his native Cruzeiro. The club sank into debt and even dropped out of the top division. And once it was the strongest in Brazil, now everything is much better. At least, we managed to regain our place at the top. Apparently, Ronaldo felt experienced enough as a manager, and therefore decided to take over the main team in his career. No, of course, we're not talking about PSV, not Real Madrid, not even Barcelona or Milan. All these clubs equally relate to the ex-footballer and consider him their legend. It's even surprising how it turned out. But Ronaldo himself always preferred the national team and was even ready to play for the Pentacampeones on painkillers. Perhaps it even showed on his knees. According to Dario Sport, Ronaldo plans to become the president of the Brazilian Football Confederation in 2026. Zubastic is so confident in his victory in the elections that he is already planning future teams. Right after his arrival, he plans to invite Pep Guardiola to the position of head coach, which Ronaldo has already informed the mentor about. Guardiola has not yet given either a positive or negative response regarding such a plan. By the time of the potential appointment, Pep may already leave Man City. And if the Spain national team doesn't become available, the Catalan would be happy to take over Selecao. Imagine what kind of machine Pep would assemble from Brazilians with their roster. It's even funny that such a powerful team doesn't achieve results at major tournaments time after time. Seems like a top-notch lineup, but not even finals. Pep is capable of solving this problem. Jude Bellingham stopped shining in the second half of last season, giving up the role of Real's main star to Vinicius. Jude didn't come back this season either, but not because of Vinny, but because of Mbappe. Carlo Ancelotti sacrificed Bellingham for the Frenchman. The Englishman had more defensive responsibilities on his shoulders. Plus, in the penalty area, there's no room for his signature moves, due to Kylian's similar dislocation. Moreover, Bellingham is now getting tired, constantly falling back to defend while working in the press. But in the England team, we see the old Jude. In the match against Ireland, he assisted Taylor Harwood-Bellis and Jared Bowen, and also earned a penalty for Harry Kane. Havbeck finally got the long-awaited freedom and immediately responded with a brilliant performance. It seems that Carlo Ancelotti has something to think about. Shouldn't Bellingham be given back his role from last season? And to worry about Mbappe, make someone else do it? Or send Kylian to the bench altogether? As Marca reports, Bellingham is frustrated with his current position at Real. He believes it would be better for him to take on the responsibilities of a playmaker and leave the physical strain and running to someone else. It seems that Mbappe has finally achieved what everyone was writing about before the season. Only the dissatisfaction in the locker room arose, not because of Donatello's toxicity, which the French media love to spread. No, it's just the team's weak results and tactical changes from Mbappe that have driven the players to negativity. Madrid urgently needs to change something. Another Valverde-style support player who can do the work of two would be beneficial. Only here, despite the fact that almost all the leadership of the top clubs is preparing for the winter transfer market, Florentino Perez, as Relevo claims, is still not convinced of the need for winter transfers, and the club doesn't know if they will buy anyone. Although the corresponding scouting work seems to be underway, one would think that the question should not arise in principle. After Militao's injury, Vasquez's physical problems, Carvajal's torn crosses, and Perez's behavior in the current situation, there is no logic. Unless such insights are thrown out just to prevent Real Madrid from raising the price in the winter transfer market. Cristiano Ronaldo recently launched his own YouTube channel, which immediately set several records on the platform. Literally within a few days, tens of millions of people subscribed to it. But there's no surprise, Ronaldo's almost the best in terms of social media development. He has the most popular Instagram account, with over 600 million subscribers. He has one of the most famous pages on X. So what was to be expected when Ronaldo entered the realms of YouTube? Only massive popularity. But the Portuguese, as usual, doesn't want to be one of the best. He's planning to become the most famous blogger on YouTube, beating MrBeast's record. Recently, the Portuguese announced that he will surpass MrBeast's subscribers in 2 years. I'll try to beat him. So far, it's not working out. The difference is still huge. It's more than 26 million subscribers, and it's only increasing every second. By the way, MrBeast didn't just pass by Cristiano Ronaldo's statement and responded. Ronaldo recently said he would surpass me in subscribers. So Messi, you are officially the best player in history. The debate is over, Jimmy declared. You would think that after such scathing comments, some media war would have to break out between the YouTuber and the footballer. Oddly, the result was the contrary. YouTube must ready its servers for heavy traffic. After all, it seems that Ronaldo and MrBeast have done some kind of collab. No details are known yet. There's only a photo that recently leaked online, where you can see Jimmy standing next to Ronaldo and his son. The internet has already dubbed this gathering as the one that breaks the internet. This will be an epical event, akin to if Ronaldo had invited Messi to his channel and conducted an interview with him. It's just a pity that these are just dreams. Lyon found himself in a difficult financial situation, and the club is threatened with relegation to League Two. The problems have persisted since 2007 when the debts began to increase. The team had to be sold in 2012. With a debt of 32 million euros, no one wanted to take over the reins, except for the American John Textera. To comply with financial regulations, the club was barred from making winter transfers. But Textera asked the league bosses to allow the purchase on credit and to compensate for the spent amount with sales in the summer. Only it didn't work out to sell for the corresponding amount, and Lyon had already been bought for 34 million euros. Lyon only sold 2 players, defender Jake O'Brien to Everton and halfback Skelly Alvara to Werder. And Kachi raised 24 million, and now they have to struggle on the brink of relegation to the League Two. John Dexter stated he won't let the team be relegated. Not a single percent for a downgrading class. The businessman gave a 2-hour press conference, during which he constantly assured of the financial stability of the club and stated that the regulator is simply working incorrectly. The club is considered in isolation, ignoring the overall condition of the holding belonging to Texter. This winter, the American plans to personally invest 75 million into the club. Plus, they plan to earn 100 million euros from player transfers. Also, in order to save Lyon, Dexter sold his share in A. He also added that the regulator is behaving very strangely. Typically, these matters are handled privately. But this time, the financial oversight unexpectedly made a public statement. And the owner, Lyon, hinted again at pressure from the Saint-Germain management. Well, in the meantime, we are waiting for transfers from the stand from the spinners. Lickfee writes that Liverpool has set its sights on Ryan Cherki. In France, they see a replacement for Mohamed Salah. Honestly, it seems right now that Cherki can't handle such a role. For now, he's just a flashy technician, but no more. But even Salah came to Liverpool, as they said, as an ordinary runner. But look at who he's become. The Kazakhstan national team unleashed all its magic after Stanislav Cherchesov took over from Magomed Adiev. With Adiev, the team was really aiming for a direct spot in the Euro. They would have played there if they had won against Slovenia in the last round. Unexpectedly, the Kazakhs outplayed strong teams for their level such as Denmark, Finland, and Northern Ireland. Kazakhstan was the underdog in their matches, but consistently earned points. Nothing seems to be working out with Cheryshev. Stanislav Salamovic's team flew to Norway with a 0-5 score yesterday. The overall score of Kazakhstan with Cheryshev in the League of Nations is 0-15. God, it's time to consider replacing the coach. But coach always has a justification. The team was helpless before me. These are not excuses, but we didn't have a single advantage. We didn't play on synthetic turf, not in Astana, where we have an advantage. We didn't have extra days for preparation. Kazakhstan itself loses the ball on a level field. With a list, everything is going in its own order. It seems like Cherchesova hasn't been listed yet. Everything is going in its own order. It seems like they are not planning to fire Cherchesova yet. At the end of the day, in every match under him, the team was an outsider. So such results are not surprising to some extent, even though the 0 in the scored column is disturbing. But in the previous meeting with Norway, Holland managed to hold back and 0 on the scoreboard. Cherchesov even joked that he used a Kalashnikov automatic rifle for this. Trio of center-backs, Alib, Kasim, Marachkin, Alib, Kasim, Marachkin. But repeating the same trick didn't work out. Yesterday, Holland pulled off a cunning trick. Aaron was unstoppable, breaking through the opponent's defense. The hat trick was his 6th in the year 2000. The Norwegian has 22 goals in 22 matches this season. If anyone can be blamed for Manchester City's disappointing results, it's certainly not Scandinavia. The Norwegian national team has significantly improved lately. The Vikings have finally found their game. If they continue in the same spirit, we might see Edegor and Holland in the next game. And if you want to watch a trickster in a pinned commentary, there lies a match review. Italy and France in the pinned commentary. There lies a match review. Italy and France highlighted an interesting match. Do you often see games where there are fewer scoring opportunities than goals scored? It happens, and after such matches, a strange aftertaste remains. It seems like a spectacle took place. There were not many goals, but the content was exciting. Personally, I didn't like the match. Both competitors looked as if they were just going through the motions. 4 goals? More like a fluke than a regularity. The teams had already secured their place in the League of Nations playoffs, so there was no particular motivation to perform. Italy, playing at home, looked surprisingly passive, although they tried to be more active and move forward for the sake of decency. In 2 halves, the Azzurri created only 2 moments, one of which ended in a goal by chance. Conversely, the French were a bit more animated. Even in an experimental lineup, the French, were slightly more lively. Even in an experimental lineup, they looked more motivated. By mid-first half, they led 2-0 and could have scored more. But as they say, Koulibaly did not outplay the goalkeeper. In the second half, France scored again, which allowed them to overtake Italy on additional indicators and take first place in the group. Luca Digne can be called the match hero. He made 3 assists. But let's be honest, it's more like Kylian Mbappe. Why? Because his moral support invigorated his partners. He even watched the beginning of the game on TV. Literally just the beginning, after which he went to the club. Fans of the national team are unlikely to wipe this smirk off Kylian's face. As they say, the team will recover, but when it turns on itself, you will sink. Meanwhile, a sensation occurred in the parallel game. Israel held a victory over Belgium, however. It didn't change anything on the tournament table. Israel remained last, while Belgium third. That's all for today. Thanks for watching and subscribing to our new channel. My name is Kirill Cast, and this was Dose of Football. Peace to your house in Johanga, friends.